It's just been such a healing thing for my own journey. And I think a lot less about all of the trauma that we went through. And I think a lot more about thankfulness.
Hi, you're listening to The Rare Life. I'm your host, Madeline Cheney, and today I have episode 21, The Power of Giving Back, with the lovely Tara Docekal. But before we jump into that, we have a new question of the month. November's question is, a parent just received a diagnosis for their child, and they're devastated and overwhelmed. What do you want to tell them? To answer this question, you can head to the website, therarelifepodcast.com. A compilation of responses will be available in December. Okay, back to episode 22. My guest, Tara, is the founder of the nonprofit organization Mightiest Mamas. They serve and uplift mothers in the St. Mary's Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Tara will share more about her organization and her inspiration for it, and she will also share the way that it has unexpectedly brought healing to her traumatic mothering experiences. My purpose in sharing Tara with you today is to get you thinking about how you can give back. Taking a break from focusing on the heaviness and difficulties we are facing by uplifting others that are also struggling can be refreshing and transformative. It can be as small as giving a listening ear, donating blood, or as big as starting a nonprofit. The point of this episode is not to overwhelm, but to be inspired, and I hope you are. I definitely was. Tara is a lover of coffee and crafting. Let's jump in. Tara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be so great. So kind of the goal of this episode is for us to be inspired to serve and give back in some way, whether it be a small version or a bigger one like a nonprofit. So first off, I would love for you to explain what your nonprofit Mightiest Mamas does.
Yeah, so we are an organization that is solely dedicated to focusing on moms. We right now are focusing primarily on mothers of NICU babies and then mothers that are in antepartum care. We have big goals and dreams to focus on other areas of hard mothership. So what we always refer to as anyone that's a trauma mama is like our like cute way that we refer to it. But moms that have gone through trauma specifically related to motherhood, motherhood-based trauma. So right now we're focusing on NICU and antepartum, like I said, because that was the easiest kind of way for us to start. But in the future, we will be doing a lot more with other moms who have experienced trauma as a result of their motherhood journey.
Right. And I'll add real quick that a lot of our listeners, as well as myself, are trauma mamas. So I feel like this is like so awesome to hear that you're doing this. What kinds of things do you do for these moms?
Yeah, so a lot of what we do is centered around us doing gifting events to give items to these moms while they're in the hospital. So all of our gift baskets that we do are either going to antepartum moms who are in current care in a hospital unit that are going to be there until they deliver. And then also to mothers, we're going into the NICU and meeting them there and giving them the basket for the remainder of the stay that they're going to have. And the items that we're putting in the basket are things that I wished I would have had and things that other people we have interviewed that are from those situations also wish they would have had when they were in the hospital. So they're mostly, I would say from an outside perspective, they're not that exciting. We actually had a guy stop us on the elevator one time when we were heading up with the baskets and he was like, oh, wow, who are you sending these care packages to? And we were like, oh, we're sending them to, in the NICU and to antepartum moms. And he was like, what's in them? And when I started listing the stuff off, he was like, well, why are you giving them that? And I was like, if you've been through this situation, you would understand. So,
like you obviously have not been in that situation.
Obviously you don't. Obviously you've not been here. Yeah. So for example, our antepartum moms, we do different times of year, we do different things in the packages. So like at Christmas, we give them a small Christmas tree with ornaments so that they can set that up in their room, because a lot of our moms either are, having their families come visit, and so they'd be doing Christmas there, or even if they don't have family and other kids coming to visit them, it still doesn't feel very in the spirit of Christmas whenever you're laying in a hospital bed scared. So that at least gives them something in their room to kind of give them an activity to do, to actually put it up, and then also something to make their room a little more Christmassy, cheery. So we put that in there, and then we do a whole lot of self-care items that the hospital either doesn't provide, or they provide the item at like the bare necessities quality. So for example, we give them a nice shampoo and conditioner, because the hospital is like a 3-in-1 shampoo, conditioner, body wash that's very drying and kind of weird smelling. So we give them nice shampoo and conditioner. We usually give them full-size Bath and Body Works shower gel and lotion for them, just so they feel a little pampered. We give them a loofah. So, that one time a day when you get to take a shower, once every couple of days, you can really enjoy it, even though the water is kind of lukewarm and there's not good water pressure. At least you're going to smell good when you get out, right? So we give them that. We give them like a good toothbrush, good toothpaste. We give them floss, because floss is a weird thing that's not provided. One really weird thing that we always give is we give a 4-pack of nice toilet paper. And that's the one that people are like, why? Well, a lot of our moms, especially if they're, in a situation where they've had labor start and it's being stopped, or once they get induced, will have frequent bathroom trips. And so that really scratchy, gross toilet paper can be really hard. And some of the medications that you might be on in that situation too may cause you to have more frequent bowel movements. So that can help that not seem as bad. So that's something that people are like, why would you? And it's like, if you've been there and you've been in that situation, and it's funny when we do our follow-up and ask them, like, what are the things they're most thankful for? Toilet paper is always on like at least 50% of the list. Like, it's like the weirdest thing that people love, but that 4-pack of toilet paper is like gold to those moms. So and actually the idea came from, I had my husband bring me toilet paper when I was in the hospital. So that's where we got that idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, this definitely comes from experience. Oh, this is a great segue, Tara. If you could tell us a little bit of your inspiration and why you chose to do this. What started you on this road?
So I started having problems in my pregnancy around 15 weeks and got transferred into a high-risk pregnancy specialty clinic. And they didn't really know what was wrong. I was just having really elevated blood pressure, and I was having a lot of swelling all over, and it was really too early for preeclampsia. So they were just kind of like an enigma, like, we don't know what's wrong with you. Something's clearly wrong, but we're just not quite sure yet what. And I was having a lot of trouble breathing and just some other really weird things. So I started going to high risk appointments, and they were doing a great job managing my care, but I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And so then at 19 weeks, it was the week of Christmas, I actually got the flu and ended up in antepartum care for a week, got out the day before Christmas Eve, and kind of got a sample of what antepartum life was like then.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. And I was like, man, I'm so glad to be out of here and back home. Glad this is over. And then it was like right in between 28 and 29 weeks, I officially got diagnosed with preeclampsia, and I was really, really sick. So the day that I got admitted, my blood pressure was like, I don't even remember. Like, I mean, just like we thought I was going to have Ellie that day, when I first got admitted, but I was able to go on, magnesium and up all of my blood pressure medication to the max they could go on. And we got stable long enough to not have to emergency have her. And so the plan was I was going to stay in antepartum care until 34 weeks. So at 28, 29 weeks to then, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be forever. And I started, I didn't have a hospital bag packed or anything. And I was like, I don't know what I need. And so I was constantly like hoping someone would come visit so I could like send them out to get something.
You needed Mightiest Mamas to come visit you.
I did.
You saw that need.
I saw. Yeah. And so I was sitting there. And the thing that I got so lucky with is I had so many great friends and family that I could call up and say, hey, I just need this, whatever I want, toilet paper, I need hand lotion, I need chapstick, I need something to do, like some sort of activity, because I'm really bored. And, without fail, I always had someone willing to, I had people like calling and offering, like, can I come bring
Right.
you something? Can I do something for you to make this better? I had people writing me letters, and
Oh,
stuff. So
wow.
I ended up having her at 32 weeks. So I didn't make it to 34 weeks as we had hoped. And it was a very traumatic birth. I almost died in labor. I had to
Mm.
get 4 blood transfusions. I had to get platelets. I didn't see her. I mean, it was just a really crazy bad situation. And then, she was immediately whisked away to the NICU because she was born so early. And
Right.
so that experience, I was already so exhausted from everything we had been through with antepartum. And that in itself, I felt like was one really hard issue situation that needed to be addressed. Like that, I kept laying in bed being like, this could be so much better. And like, but thank goodness I have these people coming to visit. Thank goodness I have this support. And then we
Yeah.
shifted to NICU, and it was a whole different world of that. I could leave, I could go get stuff, but I would find that then the emotional damage, where before it was like I was stuck, now I could leave if I wanted to, but my heart was staying behind in the
Yes.
NICU. And so I
Yes.
didn't want to. And so I was constantly fighting that battle of like, I really need to go eat, but I don't want to leave because I want to see her. And I'm
Yeah.
in this situation where this is so unnatural. This is so hard
Mhm.
as it is. I can't hold her the way I want to. I worried about her, all those feelings. So I just felt bad taking care of myself in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
that's such a weird, crazy thing because, birth is so hard for mothers anyway, even if
Mhm.
everything goes completely textbook. But, I was
Right.
recovering from a major surgery. I had a C-section. I had lost a lot of blood, and my body was trying to adjust all the new blood that had gotten put in there and all the medication that
Oh,
they
wow.
pumped me full of, that luckily saved my life. But it's still like I needed to take care of myself.
Yeah.
But I just kept finding myself ignoring that and not wanting to focus on that because I was so ready to be a mom, and I was so ready to be there for her. And I was feeling like I wasn't able to really do that either the way that I
Yeah.
had hoped for. So it was just a lot of really hard, confusing feelings, and a
Mhm.
lot of, that trauma mama thing. Like it was just so much trauma. I kept coming back to that whole time, but like, thank goodness I have all the people that I have in my life because I have so much support. And every time I
Right.
would start to feel overwhelmed, or every time I would start to feel like I wasn't going to make it, I had this like army of people
Mm.
willing to step in and help me with stuff. And I was looking around, the other 35 pods of our NICU, and
Mm.
I was one of the only ones there that truly could say that they had that. And
Wow.
I'd just sit in my room with Ellie holding her and think, oh my gosh, like I'm so lucky. Like I feel like I'm holding on by this teeny tiny thread.
Mhm.
And, I'm so much more blessed, to say it quite frankly, than so many other women that are here because
Yeah.
I have so much support.
Yeah.
And so realizing that I had this abundance of support and
Mm.
a lot of people do not, I just, when we got out and we left, I kept looking back at that experience. And that was such a, I would say like it was like a screaming hole in the whole thing that would not heal. It was
Mm.
like the end thought as my heart was healing as I was going through counseling and I was getting better from my own trauma. The wound that was left open wasn't my own wound as much as it was the ache that I felt for the other people who I know would go through those doors and experience that really hard time and do it alone or do it with
Mm.
minimal support. And that was the wound that wasn't healing. And I realized it's not a wound that's going to heal, but it can be a motivation to try to, there's something I can do about it. There are steps that
Yeah.
I can take to, not that I'm going to solve all the problems, I'm not going to save the world, but I can do my part to pitch in and do something for as many women as I can to try to offer support to them and offer, some amount of normalcy in a very stressful, not normal, not natural time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Initially, you talked about how it was little steps at the beginning. You didn't just make a nonprofit.
No.
So what were your initial steps? Like if someone were listening to this and thinking, I want to do something for others, I have a similar hole, or I've thought similar things and had similar feelings, what would you recommend for them to do?
Yeah, it's so the funny thing about you asking that is I never envisioned when I started doing this that it was going to turn into a nonprofit. That
Yeah.
wasn't the goal, and it wasn't something that I had even really thought about. I ended up not being able to go back to work after I had her, and I had a job that I really loved.
Mm.
And so it was really sad whenever that ended. And as she started becoming a little more stable, I started realizing that I had room in my life to kind of do a project is how it started. So that would be like the place I can start this conversation. The answer to the question you asked is it initially just started as I wanted to do a project. And we were going into Christmas and I kept thinking about how hard it would have been to have had her in the hospital during a holiday. Then I kept thinking, oh my gosh, Christmas would be such a hard time to experience this. And so as I had more time in my life, my daughter was doing well. She was 6 months old, and I started being like, okay, let's just plan some sort of project. So I started before I did anything because I didn't really want to set up this huge goal of something that I couldn't actually attain. I just knew I wanted to do something. And I tend to be like an over dreamer. And this is the only time in my life that I didn't do that. And it's worked out so well that I need to like take that as a life lesson.
Yeah.
Like, this is my life lesson. Yeah. Yeah. So this was the time I didn't do that. And I was just like, I have this hole that I need to like do something with. I need to try to do something for these women. So I just started talking to my friends and family. That was the first thing I did. And I just talked about it a lot. The friends and family that were close to, that knew a little bit about our story. I was like, I just can't stop thinking about this women. I just want to do something. And I don't even know what it is. I just want to do something. And so through those conversations, some of my closer friends were like, okay, well, what would you do? And we started kind of talking about what a realistic goal could be, what was actually attainable potentially with the resources that we had at the time. And what we kind of kept coming back to is if we're going to do this, we probably need other people to help with it. And I have friends and family who might help, but we might need more help than just that. So I talked to one of my friends and she was like, you probably need to have like an elevator pitch prepared to talk to people with. And so I sat down one night and what can I make like a 2-minute at most pitch that I could give to someone of why I'm wanting to help people in this situation. What's my motivation? So once I got that together, I realized that before I started involving other people in this, I needed to get a contact at that hospital to make sure that what I was planning was even allowed, that they were going to let me give it. So I think a lot of people really get passionate and really want to do something, but they don't always think to check with who they're wanting to give it to. And sometimes that can cause problems. So good example of that is we accept hat, blankets, and clothing, our organization does, but there are really strict guidelines about what they can accept. It has to be 100% cotton, so it can go through the sanitizers. If it's sewn a certain way, just for sanitation reasons as well. All of the yarn has to be 100% cotton as well, because it has to be able to be sterilized. So there are things like that, you can have all the passion in the world as a person and want to do something, but you need to have someone on the end that can tell you whether they're going to be able to receive all the work that you're putting into this, So that was kind of where I went back through all the people that I had known at the hospital to say like, hey, if I were wanting to do some sort of care package over Christmas, what items could I include? This is kind of what I was thinking. Would you allow that? How would that work? And in that phase, I tried really hard to make it as small of a goal as possible. So I think we initially said that we were wanting to do like 10 NICU moms with like 6 items in each basket and like 5 antepartum moms with like 5 or 6 items in each basket. That was like what I had originally pitched to her, because I could support that with the friends that I currently had without involving anyone else. I could have done that myself. So that's what we originally pitched to her, because we were kind of under the hope that it would be a lot bigger than that, but we would under promise, over deliver in that situation. And so after that, after we got approval, we kind of knew what we couldn't put in the baskets. I just started contacting everyone that I knew in every possible way that I knew, social media, sending out physical letters to people that maybe didn't have social media. I called people on the phone, which is like a big anxiety point for me, but I did it anyway because I was passionate. So I was calling people, texting people. And then that initial batch of friends and family, I've been bugging about this at the very beginning, that kind of were helping me get going with that. They were contacting people as well and kind of sharing that elevator pitch that I had written, saying, hey, there's my friend, here's her story. We're trying to do something for Christmas for these moms. Will you help us? And so from that, we grew exponentially. We gave valued around $100 a piece, 36 baskets to the NICU that year, and then about $110 a piece for the antepartum baskets to 10 rooms for antepartum.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
We ended up when we showed up at the hospital to meet Brenda, the wonderful woman that we work with at the hospital, do this. She was like, wait, what? And I had told her, I'd warned her, it went a lot better than we thought. So
Oh
we
my
got a lot
gosh.
before. So, and then from that, the last thing I will say, like, whether you have a good event or you have a bad event, whatever you were doing, and no event is bad. If you help one person, you've had a good event.
Right.
Like that, I will say absolutely. But regardless of where it falls in that scale, it's a really good idea to keep records of everything. So I documented every single thing we put in the baskets. I documented, the prices of things so that we could repeat it again if we wanted to. Because at this point, I didn't really know that it was going to be a thing. I just knew we were doing this one-off, but I thought in case we ever do anything else, I'll keep really good records.
Smart.
Which isn't a bad idea. And then we also did a list of, if we ever did this again, what could we have done better next time at the end? What could have gone smoother? What did we learn from this? And I did that with that original group of people that I had talked to. We kind of all talked about, how did this go? And so that was my initial event. And so once we did it and we were at the hospital and we saw the impact that we had, and I started getting emails and I started getting, friend requests from nurses that just wanted to like thank me on Facebook. That was like the catalyst in me being like, I have to keep doing this. Like, this can't be a one-time thing, because the reality is, we helped 36 NICU women and 10 antepartum women at Christmas that year. But within a couple of weeks, couple of months, all those women leave and all those beds always get replaced. It's a whole new group of women who are going through the exact same thing, and from that one experience, I was like, okay, I can't just leave it here. My heart can't leave it here and say, good for us, pat on the back. We made a big difference at Christmas. So we needed to keep moving forward. And so we did another event that got even bigger at Mother's Day, because we decided that would be another really hard, time to be in the hospital. So we did another one. We added in photography sessions. So I have a background in photography. So we did family photos for anyone that wanted them over Mother's Day in the NICU. And then that went well. So then at Halloween, we decided to make Halloween costumes for all the NICU babies. And we did we did little like, candy and things for them too as well. And that led us back into Christmas. And by then everyone kind of knew what we were doing. We had contacted media in between at Halloween to try to get more support. We set up a Facebook page, we set up a website. And then by Christmas, again, we were like, okay, we're going to survive this Christmas event. And then we're going to file for nonprofit status. And we're going to do this for real, because like we clearly have a sustainable set of projects we can do and keep this going. And I think that's the big thing. Like, if you start out being like, I want to start a nonprofit, like that's great, but you have to know that there's a need for that nonprofit.
Right.
There are so many nonprofits that exist. And so sometimes it is better to get involved with one that already exists and kind of partner with them if you don't necessarily have the time or resources to look at doing it on your own. But even if you have an end goal of starting a nonprofit, I would say try doing a project first. Like, you can have that in your heart. You can be like, I'm going to make this into a nonprofit. Like, let that be the fuel that like lights the fire for you to do that project. But do a project first, because we learned a lot, in doing that. I mean, it was 10 times more exhausting than I thought it would be. My entire dining room for like 2 months at a time around these projects is like completely non-functional, covered in stuff. Like, there are things that you just don't think about depending on what you're doing, that like it takes over potentially your whole life, and you need to be prepared for that. So I would say, like, sample it first, like try doing some projects and see if you, I don't want to say enjoy, but like see if it is something that isn't going to make your parenting journey harder, isn't going to make your home life harder, isn't going to make all of that, not sustainable, because you don't want to sacrifice any of that, for other people. You need to focus on, in my opinion, focus on your family and that. But if you can support doing all of it, and it is something that's going well, and you do seem to have the community support backing you to make it sustainable, then keep going little by little.
So Tara, this is a great way. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I could never even pull together a project, but I would love to support Tara in what she's doing. How could they donate to your cause?
Yes, we have a couple of ways to give. So on our website, there's actually a PayPal that's set up for us, and that will just give funds to the organization directly. Those funds we use to pay for the website and then pay for all the projects that we're doing as well. So that's like our only expenses. No one's getting, none of us as board members are getting any sort of pay from this. We do it all voluntarily. So that would be any cash donation that people wanted to do.
That is at mightiestmamas.org, right?
Yes, mightiestmamas.org.
Okay. And that'll be in the show notes too.
Yeah. If you go to mightiestmamas.org, it'll actually have, there's like on the landing page, it'll show a link to that. And then we also have an ongoing Amazon list as well. And the Amazon list is some of the stuff that goes into the care packages that we give. So it's going to be a lot of the bulk stuff. Some of it's kind of strange seeming stuff. There's a lot of snacks and food because we give that to the NICU moms. But then there's also like face masks and fuzzy socks. And some people are like, but why? And it's like, because they're awesome things to have when you're in antepartum care. Like it's fun to do a face mask. It gives you something to do. And fuzzy socks are always a good idea, right? So there's stuff like that. So I always tell people kind of look through and think about the things maybe you would have wanted in that situation and donate those if you can. Yeah. So the Amazon list is another, you can see it. We have a Facebook page too. It's just the Mightiest Mamas. If you type that it will come up on Facebook, and we have the Amazon list always up on there. And that's a really good way to see the projects that we've done in the past. And then also see kind of what we're working on too, is our Facebook page. We update that a lot.
Awesome. Okay. So I would love to end with your feelings as you are able to uplift these moms and how they react and the impact that's had on your life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so hard to even
all the feels
that because it's so many feelings. Yeah. So it's been, honestly, like this has been I'm going to try not to cry. This has probably been one of the most healing things that I have done. I have so much peace, oddly enough, going back to the hospital now after going back for 5 different events, where before I would pass by it on the highway and I would see the exit, the Bellevue exit to get off and go to St. Mary's, and I would feel like my chest was going to fall through. Like I just would always have that sick feeling. And now I go past and I think I should say a prayer for those moms because it's like my heart feels like warm and I want to like keep giving, like I want to keep, thinking about them. So I think for me, it's just been such a healing thing for my own journey. And I think a lot less about all of the trauma that we went through. And I think a lot more about thankfulness because of it. Thankfulness that, we are doing so well and we can give back. So that's been a really amazing thing that I wasn't expecting to come from all of this. I really wasn't doing it to heal myself, but amazingly has done that for me. And then for the moms, I am always so amazed by how kind and grateful every single mom is that we meet. I think a lot of them are really like surprised and closed off at first because they're so overwhelmed. And when we first knock on the door, especially in the NICU, it's like, who is this? Is this the, OT? Is this a nurse? Is it a nurse practitioner? Is it a doctor? Is it the care team? Like,
who is this?
Yeah. Yeah. And you just like want 5 seconds to like nap, hold your baby and cry by yourself. Right. And so here's like another face sticking their, head through the door and being like, hi, can I talk to you for a second? And so you can kind of like see that tension. And then whenever we say why we're there, we say, hi, my name's Tara. I'm a former NICU mom from this hospital, and I'm just coming around to check on you and see how you're doing. And then I wanted to give you this care package as well. They like immediately are just like, oh, and you can just see the overwhelming feeling of like peace come over them that someone who has been through this experience and understands it from a non-medical perspective is like standing in their room with them. So almost every single mom, especially the NICU moms, are like, after like 3 minutes of talking, are like, how's your daughter now? How are you doing now? Are you okay? Is she okay? And just that alone, being able to go in and being like, yeah, we had a lot of hard months. Sometimes we still have hard months with developmental things or whatever, but we're surviving. We're doing this. Like things are, I'm 2 years out now. Like that's where we are. And we're going, that's where we are. That is such a powerful thing for those moms to hear, that there is some sort of life outside hospital life, that I think that conversation alone is like amazing for them. But then to be able to have that gift that we leave behind that does, allow them to stay in the room a little longer because they have a snack, or does give them chapstick to put on when their lips are super dry, or gives them a crossword puzzle to do so that they can like take their mind off of their phone and off of the stress for a second, that is like an ongoing reminder that they're being thought of, that they're being put into this place in someone's heart that wants to support them. And so we've gotten, every event we do, we get lots of emails afterwards. We get a lot of comments from the nurses, contacting us, telling us that they always like it when we come, because for weeks after, those moms that got to be there when we were there, they take news better. They're a lot more positive.
Wow.
They're, a lot more inspired to be at the hospital and stay in the rooms with their kids, because they're just, it lifts the mood. It, empowers them to feel a little, I think we're enough of a break, like us going in there, having those conversations and giving them that item is enough of a break in the long series of bad that they've been experiencing, for them to kind of like take a step back, reset, and be willing to hopefully look at the situation with a little bit calmer perspective is kind of our goal. Like, we just want them to, to just have a pause. And whenever they walk back into the chaos, they at least feel like someone is there with them, holding their hand invisibly. That's our goal. The really hard rooms that we've gone in that have really had situations that we didn't know if the child was going to make it, we didn't know, those sort of situations. We knew there was going to be a very long stay there. We make a point to ask for permission to keep in contact with those moms, and we'll go and periodically check in on them, drop more stuff off, send them emails, send them cards, to the hospital, just letting them know we're thinking of them, because, the reality is we want to make sure that all of our moms truly feel supported for that entire journey. And even once they're out, we want to make sure that they always feel like they can reach out to us at any time if they're really struggling, afterwards too, for that emotional support. So I have a lot of new friends on Facebook that I get to see their cute little babies grow up, and I'm so proud of all the parents. I'm so proud of the moms too. So yeah.
That's amazing. You are amazing, Tara.
It's been, like I said, it's been like I never thought this would be my life. I mean, and everyone says that, like, you never think you're going to have a NICU kid. You never think you're going to have a high-risk pregnancy. You never, first are trying to have a kid. You never expect to be the one that has this complicated trauma mama. Like, no one ever goes into pregnancy being like, I hope that I get traumatized by this. Like, I hope my motherhood journey just wrecks my life. Like, you don't go into it thinking that. You go into it thinking like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to be a mom, and so it's so crazy that, like, I've been on this roller coaster for years now of, like, going through all that trauma and then coming out on the other side and just feeling like, I'm so blessed every day to be a mom. I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so blessed to be in a spot where, I have this organization that I get to keep loving people and giving back. And it's not ever what I thought I would do with my life, but I can't imagine my life any other way. I'm so thankful for it.
Well, Tara, you are so inspiring. You're very inspiring. And I feel more inspired to do more. And I hope that our listeners are also feeling inspired by your story. It's amazing. And you are amazing.
So are you. I'm so glad we got to meet. Like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. We have friends.
Yes.
Photos of Tara at work with Mightiest Mamas can be found on the website, therarelifepodcast.com. In the show notes, you can find links for more information about Mightiest Mamas, including ways to donate if you're interested in supporting that. Join me next week for a solo episode in which I relate the heartache and super complicated mess that is being a genetic carrier for Kimball's syndrome. See you then.